You think Masvidal's going to do it?
Yeah. I fucking love Masvidal.
Yeah, I do, but I still think it's going to go the same way as the last time.
Do you?
Yeah, I kind of.
I don't watch the War Rooms, but I don't watch them because otherwise I'm just going to regurgitate what you've just said on the War Rooms.
Yeah.
But you know, we chatted before, we touched on it earlier. I love so like they're almost opposites, right? The two of them are like almost opposites. So Jorge has this. I need to call him George then. Hold on, I'm just transitioned a couple of generation there. Jorge has this like big personality, and he has this persona around him that he's obviously built, and he was, you know, backyard YouTube sensation brawling with like, you know, he's just as a youngster, like pretty much cleanly shaven and going. He's, you know, now he's in his Chanel robes and he's, you know, doing whatever. And he has, whether you sort of resonate with him or not, he has a persona, doesn't he? He's built a character. He's got, you know, he's got a character, and it sort of fools you into thinking that there isn't a really, really smart fight mind behind that, but there is, and he's. Yeah, I just think he's got so much experience on his resume, and there's probably double that underneath his resume that you're never going to see anyway. For sure. And I always say it's about pictures. You just keep seeing pictures until you understand the game, and I just get it. Like there's nothing you can do I haven't seen at least once. Look, I've got all these fights. Like I've seen everything. So, and then Kamaru. Part of me doesn't know why I don't sort of resonate with him a little bit, but he's just kind of he's a bit cheesy. He's a bit, you know, his persona is not as interesting, is it? It's not like,
it's not as palatable.
No, he's not as cool or whatever. I'm not sure what it is, but he's not.
But I think that's partly because Masvidal is who he is, and he's not really bothered if you don't like him.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of feel like I don't know. I mean, they're very different fighters, aren't they? They both seem to be coming to the same thing for the same reason. I think Masvidal's more money driven now because he's realised that he's got
it's
to
finite
make it pay.
And I need to.
He's got to. And for me, there was a shift when he did that reality TV show. Like it just like it came off the back end of that, and it was just like, oh, I just need to live life and have fun.
Yeah.
And it transferred into his game in you know quite a noticeable way. But like you said, the gaming and the, you know, like he had a fucking poncho on in Mexico City and a big hat, looked like a bandito. It was wicked.
He's just having a laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just having a good time. So it's like
seems
you can't blame him because you can't take him too seriously. But that's a part of his game. Yeah. It's a part of his bluff.
Yeah,
like you don't take him too seriously.
Like Jorge is an out and out fighter who has learned athleticism and he's bolted on skills to amplify his fighting over time. And then you've got Kamaru, who's an athlete who has added some fighting skills outside of wrestling. Obviously, you know, he was, you know, in extensive wrestling background. He's bolted on some skills to the point that even last time out, he seemed like he'd amplified that jab, like something we hadn't really seen from him as competent as he was.
Yeah.
But I don't. But the little bit that Jorge has, that out and out fight bit, like Kamaru is an incredible competitor. I'm not sure he's an out and out fighter. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say one is better than the other. You know, it takes a mix to bring these guys together.
But I don't know. I don't know whether Kamaru knows whether he's got that in him because I mean he's 18-1, and that one loss on his record. I think it was Alex Caceres' brother. He was 3-3 at the time, and I'm sure I've watched the fight. Anyway, it was one of those kind of things that as soon as it happened, Usman was like, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That fight was made. That fight was there for me to beat this guy, and he didn't. And it was probably just a really silly slip up that he, you know, it kind of haunts him. But 18-1 is like, that's a record of control. That's a person that fights out of a good point of control, and so he might not have ever needed to have been in the trenches. Yeah. Like even when he had that fight with Colby Covington, that was a bloody fight. He wasn't really damaged. He wasn't really hurt by anything that Colby did. Yeah. Like at no point has he really had to dig deep. Like cardiovascular wise, maybe a couple of times, but for the majority of the time, he's just shut people down. Yeah. And he's been in such control that Like the controller's overridden the need for anything else. It's like Askren's grappling skills have overridden the need to be a decent boxer.
Striking, yeah. Do you think the animosity between him and Jorge might bring that out? Like he's clearly like, right, motherfucker, there's no excuses this time.
No.
Let's have it, and then shut your mouth.
Not at all.
Not reckon.
Not at all. I don't. And it was a beauty in Usman's game that I hadn't discovered before the Gilbert Burns fight. Because I was too focused on the fan in me, which is a little bit just bleed. And a little bit like, I can see you're just holding him now. Like, either take him down or either break. Don't hold him there and stamp his feet. Like, there's a part of me that is watching the fucking screen, throwing popcorn at it. Like, I didn't pay for this. I mean, I didn't pay for it anyway, but that's beside the point. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a bit of me, and when I'm watching him, I get that. I understand why people feel like that, because even if you can't fight and you're not, you don't have those skills, like you can tell when somebody else is not wanting to fight, and that's where it's frustrating. And when someone's got absolute control over someone, absolute control is impressive to a point where you stop doing something with it, and that's where it gets frustrating. And like when he fought Emil Mek and he just dominated him for 15 minutes, Mek was angry, he was frustrated, wasn't particularly hurt, he was a little bit bloodied, but like that was the fight where Usman went to the mic and he's going, I'm a problem, and he kept repeating the same thing, and then he's like, that was 30%. I'm like, well, give us a bit more then.
Yeah.
Like if you get
give us 60, you got to finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's always the story in his corner going into the 5th round. Like you listen to Henry Hooft when he fought RDA. Like he beat the snot out of RDA for 20 minutes, and his corner team were going, finish him. Yeah. Go and get a finish. And in moments where he had him up against the fence and he was like, I could break and strike here. He's exhausted. He's small. He's, the fight's gone out of him. I could let him wail on my face right now and he's not have the power anymore to hurt me. I'll take him down. You know what I mean? It's like...
Even the fact that the corner would have to say that to him probably tells you enough. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
just too safe.
Of course I'm going to go out and finish him.
Right.
That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. Like that's the bit where... Like Masvidal has that chip regardless. And when he comes out in the first round against Usman, he fights like, I've got the finish. I can finish him. Yeah. Whack, whack, whack.
Man, that first minute of that
it's not even a minute, mate. It's 15 seconds. It's 15 seconds. He was on his back at 4:46.
Oh, really? Is that how long it was? Felt like he must have thrown about 20 strikes in that.
He threw 5 or 6 kicks, but Usman caught one and took him down. But then, like the other thing that Masvidal was very good at, and bear in mind how much experience he's got, is he knows how to play the MMA game, and that's a good counter to Usman, because Usman's a good competitor. So Usman's going to go 5 portions of 5 minutes. This is my game plan for each one of these portions. This is how I'm going to beat him, and if the finish presents itself, I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, I think his confidence might be a bit higher given the fact that he's just stopped Gilbert Burns. But that's the reason why the psychology doesn't play in. Because he was just dead stone cold with Gilbert Burns. There was no emotion towards him at all. And I don't think Masvidal would get a rise out of him in any way. I think Burns would be a tougher test for him than Masvidal to keep himself together. Yeah. See, the thing is with Masvidal, like you said, he's got that dog in him that, like, as soon as there's a bit of space, he's going to try and take a chunk out of you. But the moments in the fight are going to be fractions of each 5 minutes where he's got an opportunity to do that. And the rest of it is going to be a bit held up against the fence or defending takedowns up against the fence.
Yeah, and it just wears that pop out of him, doesn't it? That pop is the thing that will get him the finish.
Like, if he can, like, the conditioning that he came in within the last one, I know like 6 days notice and everyone was saying he was training, etc. It's not the same though, is it? No. Like you're not going to do those track sprints or those hill sprints, or you're not going to dig into that 25-minute gas tank that you need to and hollow your lungs out for that. It's just I think you have to have the carrot get dangling in order to get that out of you sometimes. I think there are a few maniacs out there, don't get me wrong, that just live on that vibe. But fighters ebb and flow, and a fight takes so much out of you, especially when you've had, 50-odd fights like Masvidal has. I think it gets to the stage where you're like, the fight's not mine, okay, let me pull back a little bit, and manage himself. So that fight wasn't his until a week before.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at that first round and how quickly he faded in the first round, if he can take those moments where he was able to break with an elbow and caught him with a couple of kicks, if he can extend those fractions into the following rounds and play that, I'm not going to win on points, but I might hurt him bad.
Yeah.
That's where it gets interesting for Masvidal.
I can see him like...
Yeah, but you're dreaming.
Whoa. All right, I'm on my way. I can just see him opening him up. I can see him finding space to open him up a little bit, and then what's it going to look like? Then what are we going to see? We're going to see, Usman find the anger and come after him, or what? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being fanciful, but
the thing. If I'm Masvidal, there are ways into Usman's game, but he's got to set him up, and he's got to create those opportunities like he did against Darren Till, like level change, so forcing Darren Till to put his arms out, and then level change and throw a hook over the top. Like, he built that narrative in that fight. The problem against Usman is that he's going to close you down, so you're up against the fence, not having time to set those traps in place. So like the burst attacks that he's got are, I've got to be more reactive in the moment because I've only got a short window of time before I'm clamped onto against the fence again.
Kamaru probably doesn't respect his wrestling enough to flinch to a fake, does he?
I don't think so. And I think if Masvidal decides that he's gonna feint, Usman's gonna know for sure that it's gonna be a strike.
Yeah.
Because why would he grapple?
Yeah,
I mean, you can like Colby Covington decided not to grapple against Usman because it would have been a waste of time.
Yeah. Right. Well,
I could literally talk about this fight for days. It is fascinating, but like their records, their reputations, their style of fighting is so synonymous from the different. It's like Zhang Wei Li's on one end of the power spectrum, the strength end, and Rose is on the speed end.
Both got it.
Both have got it.
Comes a different way.
Exactly, but then in a different way, Usman's on the control end of the spectrum, and Masvidal's on the chaos end of the spectrum. So you've got Usman coming through high school collegiate wrestling, which is all about control, and you've got Masvidal fighting unlicensed fights in backyards, which is ultimate chaos.
Yeah, isn't it? What a great story to come to the top. Yeah.
And they've had 25 minutes against one another, and they both got tired. But the reason that Usman got tired is because we know now his game plan was not to wrestle and clinch, because he was supposed to be fighting Gilbert Burns. And that was a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It's one of the most. He's probably got the best straight punching in mixed martial arts right now, Usman.
But that's crazy. He can have developed that, seemingly upskilled that so fast, because we haven't really seen that, not to that degree, not to that sharpness and accuracy. No,
we haven't. But at the same time, like throughout his career, we have seen it. Like he put Sergio Moraes down with a straight right against the fence, and it was a bit smothered and a bit chaotic, which is why people didn't really appreciate it. But then Damian Maia as well, dropped Damian Maia with a straight right against the fence. And Damian Maia was just slightly out of range, which is why the knockout didn't stick. But it's like he's been finding his range, and it's not quite been there, but he's also not allowed himself to test it because he's been fighting guys that are, dangerous, dangerous grapplers, dangerous strikers. I mean, Damian Maia and Gilbert Burns were the only two guys that he really wanted to roll the dice on with his striking. All the rest of the guys he clinched, apart from Colby, obviously. But that was really where we started to see his straight punching shine through.
But the jab is
it's amazing,
deadly,
and it's ambidextrous.
Yeah.
But the limitation to it is that the reason that you can't see it coming is because the punch is chambered. But the way around it, like I was talking about with Shevchenko, teasing range, and exactly what Whittaker did against Gastelum. If he forces Usman to step to punch, that's a tell that's much more easier to spot than his hand leaving his shoulder.
Yeah, so he's just gonna have to play on the edge of that range and tempt him forward.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait for the ride along. It's gonna be fun, isn't it? Picking this apart.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Are you going with Masvidal then, just because you're a dreamer?
I am going with Masvidal.
Yeah. See, I think it's going to be very similar to the first fight. I think Usman might find opportunities to use his straight punching later in the rounds, but I think he's going to come and compete. I think he comes and competes.
I mean, he's the best around at competing, right?
Yeah.
Because of his history and because of his skills. Yeah.
And this is where, like, you know, it's interesting because you go like, right, well, like if Askren was fighting Jake Paul in an MMA fight, Askren would have been all over Jake Paul, no doubt.
Probably would have ended in the same time frame.
Yeah. Exactly. It would have been the opposite way around. But then if you take Usman out of a controlled environment, a sporting environment, and put him in a fight situation, like these guys are throwing down in the changing rooms of a gym or a bar, that's when Masvidal, you know, that's when his internal qualities come to the surface. And I'm not saying necessarily he'd win, but in those circumstances, you're not holding somebody against the wall in the bar for 5 minutes unless you're waiting for the police to arrive. Do you know what I mean? It's like if it's a fight, Masvidal's biting you and headbutting you, and you know, get away with what he can. But in a sporting environment, because there are limitations to that dogged fighting mentality, competitors show through, and Usman's ability to compete is why his jab is so accurate. Because like you get a beginner and you go hit that pad. There's two ways they're going to do it. They either go and put their hand on it and don't pull it back, or they go and try and blast the pad off your hand. And the majority of people that get into fighting and get to any level of competition, they've still got that. Yeah.
Imagine how out of control Masvidal would be if he was the champ. He would just be out of control.
He'd run the show. He'd run the show. He'd branch off and do his own Triller type shows, I reckon. He could do that.
Yeah.
Masvidal could do that.
Yeah.
He really could. I'd like to see him box one of the Diaz brothers. I think that'd be really good to see. Because I think he'd be quite slick as a boxer as well. I mean, not nearly as polished as some of these Lifetime boxers, but certainly enough to make it very, very fun to watch.
Make it interesting,
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you are.
I absolutely.
Yeah.